TeaBoy to the CEO of Purplebricks. Talk to me.
Yeah, it's a story that whenever I tell it, I'm sure people think I'm winding them up, but I am a chicken farmer from Worcestershire who fell into a estate agency at 17 years old.
No other jobs?
No other jobs. Started with Dixons estate agents.
What year was this?
1990, August the 13th, 1990.
That was a tough housing market in 1990.
It was very tough.
You couldn't have really started at a worse time, could you?
I think I started at the best possible time because I really cut my teeth in what it is you need to do to be a great estate agent at selling properties.
Okay.
If you can sell properties when interest rates are 15% and everybody's exiting the market, repossessions at an all-time high, then you're learning good lessons that will keep you in good stead.
So why did you want to become an estate agent, or did you genuinely just fall into it?
So I genuinely just fell into it. At the time, I applied for a job selling houses and I applied for a job selling cars, and the people selling houses gave me an interview and they gave me a chance.
This was Dixons, so were they part of Countrywide at this point?
So it was part of the Hambro Group.
Yes.
So they were one of the largest parts of the Hambro Group as it was back in the day. I started in Redditch. First day was quite strange because I joined as TeaBoy and somebody else left the building the Friday before, and I was out doing viewings on my first day, talking to customers, doing vendor care, phoning out new instructions.
And you were 17 at this point. What was the best bit about the job?
I think the bit that I found very easy to fall in love with was the opportunity to listen to customers talk about the moves that they wanted to make, whether they were buyers or whether they were sellers. And I had the opportunity to help them. Are you
saying that with your CEO hat on now, or did you genuinely just like what you were just going around people's houses at 17?
Yeah. No, I didn't like going around people's houses. I liked sitting down, listening to stories and making a difference to people's lives.
Does that come from your parents or your grandparents?
I think it came from my parents. So my dad was a chicken farmer, which is why I was a chicken farmer. He was the first farmer in the UK to do organic eggs. And the reason that I wanted to be a salesperson, I wanted to sell houses or sell cars, was that I realised that it doesn't matter what product you've got, if you can't sell it, if you can't articulate the attributes of that product to a consumer so they want it, it doesn't really matter how good the product is.
So why didn't you go into the family business?
Now that was... that's a really interesting story because I wanted to make my own career. I didn't want to get handed father's family business. And
did you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I've got a younger brother.
Okay. So did he take the business over?
No, he followed me into agency.
Okay.
Runs his own independent estate agency.
So did you want to almost prove something to your parents that you could do it by yourself?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt that it was about taking control of my life and showing that I would be a success on my own 2 feet.
So you were doing viewings on the first day, which is great. How long did you stay at the Redditch office of Dicksons then?
Just over 6 months.
Okay.
And that gave me an opportunity to be a senior negotiator just down the road in my hometown in Bromsgrove, where I worked for 12 months and then went through the...
Same firm?
Same firm. So I worked with Dixons for 9 years.
Okay.
Worked with Countrywide for 26.
Wow.
But my initial journey was fairly typical to most.
So TeaBoy stroke neg, senior neg after 6 months. When did you make valuer and lister?
So valuer was about 18 months in.
Okay, so you were 19, 20, rustling around in a little Vauxhall Nova or something?
Astra. Vauxhall Astra G152 TVM.
There you go, eh?
That I was hugely proud of at 18
What colour?
years old. Red.
Red. Because in the old corporate days, you only used to get the 3 colours, didn't you?
Yep. I was fortunate enough to have moved on before I would have had the purple Fiesta, which was the next.
What did you like about valuing?
So sports played a big part in my life and it's made a big difference to my career. And in the valuing role, it was the most competitive I'm head to head with other estate agents, articulating my message, talking to a customer about how why I'm the best estate agent for them to choose, and I loved winning.
Why do you think estate agents, especially valuers, the hurt of losing a listing versus the pleasure of getting it is not equal, is it? Yeah. Why?
My view on that is that they've got to tell somebody. So the fact that they've got to tell a manager or a regional manager or a business owner that I've lost that business is really uncomfortable, because they know they're then going to have to answer why. And I think that's one of the most difficult conversations to have properly in an estate agency branch, because it's smoke and daggers, it's smoke and mirrors. And
how did you learn to get over that, or do you ever do that?
As a lister or as a manager?
Lister.
So as a lister, I was really comfortable with it because I was desperate to learn, I was desperate to win. I was hugely ambitious, and I was very comfortable to say, this is what's happened, what can I do about it? What I think was the biggest learn I took from that is that when I moved into management was to understand how the lister felt, and to create a pathway that enables that conversation to be constructive, supportive, helpful, never ever challenge the person themselves, but always feel comfortable to challenge the behaviour.
Do you think we as an industry could be better at that?
100%. A big part of why I connected with the estate agency was that I'd been involved in high level sport. So I played rugby at senior county level, had an England trial as a junior, and I got exposed to incredible leadership. You know, the kind of leadership that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, the kind of leadership that focuses on best in class, with 17, 18, 19-year-old kids, helping them be the very best they can be. And I moved into high street estate agency and found at the time that the leadership was pretty ropey.
So do you feel what you learnt on the rugby pitch helps you with your estate agency career?
100%.
Okay.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges the industry faces, and I know you talk a lot about why do good listers struggle to make good managers. There is very little exposure to top level leadership in our industry, and the more engaging we can be with what great leadership looks like, what are the behaviours, the characteristics, the sacrifices that great leaders make for their people, the more helpful it will be for the wannabe leaders of the future.
Did you find it difficult to go from becoming a valuer to being a branch manager? And what year did you make that transition?
So that was 1993.
Okay, so you were quite young then.
Yeah.
You were 21, 22?
21.
That's quite young for a branch manager.
Yep. 21 years old. I would say yes, I found it very difficult.
I mean, what's it like trying to tell someone that's 10 years older than you how to do things?
Well, that piece has been part of my career. It's been a feature of my career throughout. So I was a regional at 25. I was the managing director of Dixons at 30. And it was a long time before I managed people that were younger than me.
Yes.
Unfortunately, these days it's all too common. But for me, the emphasis is on the leader to do the right thing in the right time, in the right way for the people that are part of the team. And leadership is it's often overrated until you've got a followership. And if you're a great leader and people are following you because you're taking people on a journey that makes a difference, then it becomes easy to inspire teams. Now, I didn't get that right when I first became a branch manager, and I think you're absolutely right. Lots of valuers struggle with that because they think it's all about being a great estate agent.
Yeah, because good valuers don't make good managers, do they?
They don't.
So you went up the rank from being a branch manager to an area manager. What was the difference between having to work remotely? Because when you're an area manager, you're not in the branch. You can't directly affect things, can you?
Correct.
Was that hard?
Very hard. And I think there's two things that are really difficult when you make that transition to remote management. Firstly, you have to adapt to the transition that you're not there 24/7. If you're in a branch as a manager most days and you do something that doesn't land or is interpreted incorrectly, you get to see that the same day. As a remote manager, as somebody with a number of branches, it can be 10 days, 2 weeks, or even a month before you see that a message that you've given has landed in the wrong way. So the clarity of delivery becomes really important. The relationship that you build with people so that they feel comfortable to tell you when they think you're wrong becomes really important. And recruiting the right people is critical. The second thing that makes that remote management really difficult is that it becomes very easy to deal with what he said to you. It's difficult in my town at the moment because of this.
Yes.
And unless, as that remote manager, you really get under the skin of that, you talk to customers, you ask questions, you talk to people in the branch, you can run down rabbit warrens and
it's almost like the excuses move up,
100%.
don't they? It's tough in my town, I need to drop my fees, and then that goes up the level.
Yep.
When in reality, you've got to challenge the person. And a lot of fee, I know we're going to talk about a lot of subjects today, including fees and low fees. Do you think that's a mindset thing?
Definitely, yeah. It's a really simple example that I talk about a lot, which is some form of leadership engagement with somebody who says, I'm struggling to get hold of customers. So the first engagement says, well, let's try and get 2 telephone numbers. And the negotiator gets 2 telephone numbers, but still struggling to talk to people on the telephone. So the second engagement says, let's do a late night phone out. Makes sense, let's do a late night phone out. I'm still struggling to get hold of customers. The third engagement now, as a remote manager, you're probably 2 or 3 weeks on, is, well, why is that? And then the real answer comes out, which is, I really don't like talking to people on the telephone. And that quality, that's not the individual's fault, that's the leadership's genuine belief that they're offering solutions, but they're not understanding what the real challenge is for that individual. That's just a simple example of making sure that you understand the real issue that you're trying to help and support in the branch.
Was stepping up to be leader of Dicksons, how many offices in Dicksons at the time?
45.
A 30-year-old, that's pretty big stuff, that is, for a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
Was the jump from branch manager to area manager a bigger jump, or area manager to leading Dicksons?
The jump from branch manager to area manager was a bigger jump.
Okay.
That brought with it the most pronounced differences in a typical daily routine. The bit that made Dicksons easier for me was that at the time I was running Bairstow Eves in the Midlands area, ran 11 branches, and those branches were pretty much doing double the turnover of the Dicksons business that I became the leader of.
Again, you still stayed within Countrywide.
Yep. So I was part of when Countrywide bought Nationwide Building Society business. I left Dixons to rebrand Nationwide Building Society in the Midlands to Bairstow Eves. Did
you enjoy being the boss of Dixons?
Loved it.
So how long were you MD of Dixons then?
So I actually was responsible for Dixons from 2004 to 2013.
Wow, so you saw the good times in 04, 05, 06. We had a bit of a dip, didn't we, in 06, then back again 07, 08, then the drop down.
Yep.
What did you learn from good markets and bad markets as being an MD? Do the good bits first.
Yeah, so I think the bit that I would absolutely state in the good times is that it's harder to drive performance in the good times because you're asking people to take success and make it even more successful. In those tough times in 06, 07, marketplace was half the size as it had been in previous years. People understood this was serious. People understood that change was needed. People were much more determined to knuckle down and to protect their income, protect their careers and make those changes. Actually, for me, it was much more difficult to say to somebody, right, now the market's good. You might have done £500,000 worth of turnover and you're now doing £750,000 worth of turnover, but I want you to think about doing £1 million. And that was often the, hang on a minute, is nothing ever good enough kind of response, but actually growing market share when the market was was providing the wind in your sails took a really positive and ambitious approach to leadership.
How did you do that?
So one of the things that I really believe in from a leadership perspective is that if you spend all your time trying to solve your problems, you miss out on your biggest opportunity. You've got to spend your time with your best people. We did things at Dixons like board of management, did things with my career at Countrywide where I did boards of management, having the top 10, 15 branch managers come together on a quarterly basis, share with them the subsidiary board pack, the decisions that the business was making in terms of the landscape that it was facing, engaging with that community, and really making sure that they were deeply connected with the vision of the organisation and the way that we were tackling those challenges.
So what you're saying is, instead of focusing on the poor performers, focus more your attention on the 20%. It's the Pareto rule, isn't it?
100%, yeah. So one of the things that it's fascinating in a estate agency, because if you spend your time in one of your weaker performing branches to help turn it around, that can be quite difficult because it's typically a people problem. My view is if you spend your time in one of the best branches and help them develop people and create the very best infrastructure within that branch, the chances are you'll develop the solution for the smaller branch within that branch. The future manager from that great environment that can sort out the weaker performing branch will come from there.
Did pushing all your attention on the good ones drag the other ones up? Or did it just accentuate?
Yes, I wouldn't say it's pushing all my attention on the good ones. It's making sure the good ones absolutely understand that there are opportunities to be good in every branch. One of the things that was definitely not the case when I got involved in Dicksons, but was the case for most of my career at Countrywide, I think in the end, is that the most improved branch wasn't a really poor branch from the year before. Actually, the most improved branch was a good quality branch manager who had a really good plan to think about how they won more business the following year, and had a number of really high profile successful branches grow their performance when they thought about things differently.
Okay, what about the bad market of 08, 09? What did you do then to keep the sailboat going?
So the thought process is exactly the same. So how do we engage with people? How do we give them real clarity on what it is that we wanted to do? So 2008, I think Dicksons had become Countrywide West Midlands. So we'd got the Dixons brand, the Bairstow Eves brand, the Lock in England brand at the time, and we created Mission Possible. And the idea behind Mission Possible was a framework that shared the story that we wanted to do. We worked out that if the market was going to be half the size, we would need to double our market share, and we'd need to charge more because we'd want to be able to invest more in the marketing of our customers' home. And it was the most successful period for Countrywide West Midlands. It went from a brand that was a struggling performer at that point in time within the Countrywide business to one of the top 3 brands.
Are you enjoying it at this time?
Yep.
Okay. So what did you, in 2013 you left?
In 2013 I took the opportunity to run Bairstow Eves, Essex, North East London, and Abbots in a newly formed subsidiary called Countrywide Anglia. So it became the biggest subsidiary in the Countrywide group, and I relocated to Cambridgeshire.
Did you take your family with you?
Took my family with me, yeah.
How did your family feel about relocating?
Well, that was an interesting deal from the wife. So the wife says you can take the job, but you can't live somewhere central to the opportunity. You've got to live somewhere that probably wasn't ideal because it was close to family and friends that she'd got in Norfolk.
Okay.
So she was incredibly supportive. I've got a young daughter at the time. Billy would have been 2 or 3 years old, and another one on the way. And we up sticks, and we when I lived in a place called Wimbledon on the Norfolk-Cambridgeshire border.
How did you feel about it?
I was tremendously excited. That was a significant opportunity within my career to do something bigger than I'd been involved in before. It was recognition that what I'd done in Dicksons was within Countrywide West Midlands had been a success, And it was my opportunity to show that it wasn't just because I understood the Midlands property market, it wasn't just because I was a homegrown talent.
So how many offices were you in charge of when you moved down to?
120.
Wow. Big
4
numbers.
brands, so Bairstow Eves, Abbots, Tucker Gardner in Cambridgeshire, and John D. Wood branch.
Was it all plain sailing?
I don't think my career's ever been plain sailing.
Okay.
I think the leadership responsibility that you have with the careers of the teams that are part of your business, I think are always significant.
Okay.
Certainly in the tough times when you sit down and you're having conversations around spans of control, whether you can reduce your headcount in regional management, they're really difficult conversations to have. So the responsibility that comes with, the 1,000 families that are responsible, that I'm responsible for, that earn their living from being involved within the business is a responsibility that I take to heart. And at the time, though that business was created because there was real belief in the brands within the geographies that we were competing within, but the business was underperforming.
What was it like running different brands in the same town?
Yeah, so that was definitely something that I think Countrywide, they still wrestle with today. I was definitely part of that wrestle, and that for me, I don't have any challenge leading different brands in different towns.
I'm talking about more the same town.
Sorry, different brands in the same town.
Yeah.
What I did, because I think it was important to how those brands competed with each other and their competitors, was I kept the brands separate for whenever I brought them together. I found it very difficult to stand in front of 4 brands and say your brand is fantastic because you do.
Yes.
Because that's just disingenuous and it's not right. So the Abbott's business was kept separate from Bairstow Eves' business.
Because I know in a separate video we're going to talk about what you would do if you were running Countrywide as the boss, but we'll come on to that in a separate video. So how long were you MD of basically most of London and Essex?
I was Countrywide Anglia, I was MD there for a couple of years.
Yes.
And then I had the opportunity to be the managing director of Countrywide in London,
Okay.
which was the branches that I was looking after in North East London, but also the rest of London, anything inside the M25.
Was that another step up?
Yeah. And that was, again, that was an opportunity to work.
Couldn't have been much plumber jobs than that. Or big jobs. Plumber's probably wrong.
Yeah, there was definitely some kudos with that role. Again, big step for my family. So that's Lucy was born in November, and on the 1st of January I started living in Canary Wharf Monday to Friday and commuting home at weekends. So amazing support from my family to be able to make that commitment, but a very significant opportunity within my career. The opportunity to work closer with the leadership team, the opportunity to be based out of the PLC head office and understand that environment, and a great opportunity for me to also work solely in London for the first time.
What did you learn working in London?
I think the quality of agency in London, I think, is definitely better, and that's just simple economics. That there's, when your average fee is £12,000, you can afford to invest in better quality estate agency operational practices. So agency is definitely better. I do think there are a number of things that London estate agents can become isolated to. I don't think that they particularly think about the typical journey of a purchaser in London. I found that when I wanted to find a place, people were keen to tell me that it was 10 minutes to a tube station, which was very unhelpful. I didn't know what tube line it was on. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get into Oxford Street, as a for instance. But what I also see is that the attention to detail on the marketing, the fact that typically a director will sign off every advert, a director will approve every photograph. A meticulous attention to detail is to put into every single description. And I definitely saw agency move to a different level.
When did you decide to go to the purple ones?
So
did they approach you, or did you approach them?
We got Josh Reynard, I would say.
Oh,
yeah. So we
bless
had a,
him.
Yeah, so I'd left Countrywide at the end of 2016, and I was taking a bit of time off. I was relocating my family back to the Midlands. Josh made a call and said,
Hold on, so you'd already left Countrywide?
Yep. So
were you one of the Coles? Were you one of the Allison Cole then?
I don't know if I would put it quite like that, but I was part of the Allison environment, and when it came to it, and I was part of a quartet that had been invited into meetings, two of which left the building straight away, one of which had been told he'd got a different job, and I was told, congratulations Lee, you've got a fantastic new opportunity to further your career. And I kind of slowed things down and said, hang on a minute, what's happened to the other guys? Why is the business making these decisions? I found it quite disrespectful to have moved in the way that we did, and rather than take the new job, we agreed my exit, and I left the business at the end of 2016.
I know in a separate video we're going to talk about how you would run Countrywide, so we can go into a little bit more detail as far as we can go on that. Yep. So you got Josh Reynard.
Yep.
And you went and joined Purplebricks.
Yep. So I met Michael Bruce, and I knew of Michael. Michael and I were part of the Midlands Association for Estate Agents in the 90s, and we were definitely different from the other people that sat on that committee. And I went and had a breakfast in London with Michael. He talked to me about Purplebricks.
So what year was this? 16. So they were doing.
So this is February 17.
So they've been they were almost at their. They were doing quite well then, weren't they?
They were certainly in a high growth phase of the journey. Michael talked to me about what had driven the success. He talked to me about some of the challenges that they were facing. And we talked about what I might be able to do to help them with those challenges. I loved the way that he spoke about the customer. I loved the way that...
That's important to you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's a people industry. One of the bits I wrestle with all the time is that estate agency is one of the 5 least trusted industries in the UK. And I think there's lots of people who work very hard to make sure that that's different for them and it's different for their business. Yet this industry still has that challenge. And I do think, as a whole, the industry doesn't think about the customer enough. I think on...
But what made you go to the dark side? Was it just generally Brucey just saying it's all about the customer?
No, I definitely don't. So I don't believe it's the dark side. I don't believe in online versus high street. I believe that estate agents have always competed. Okay, in 1993 it may have been pick me because I've only got 4 boxes on a newspaper advert and somebody else has got 24. But look, differentiating what it is you do for a customer is fundamentally what estate agents have done for over 100 years.
Did you get lots of support from your friends in the industry when you joined Purplebricks?
Yes. I wasn't sure how people would react to that.
Okay.
But
were you worried? I
wasn't worried. But the peers my previous peers had reached out to me and said, "Great move. That'll be good fun."
Okay. So what we because you had 2 roles at Purplebricks. I know you ended up being CEO. What was your role at this point?
So Chief Operations Officer.
Okay.
And my role. So this was in the February, March of 17. The business was launching in America in September.
Okay.
That was going to take Kenny and Michael to America, and they wanted to make sure that the UK leadership team had got the right experience and capability. And that's when we talked about initially the operations role. me getting to know the business, me getting to understand the model, and being in a position to prove my worth to the business for the CEO vacancy that was going to come up later that year, early part of
So
18.
you knew damn well that you were going to get the CEO role as long as you kept your nose clean and were a good boy.
I knew it was an opportunity for me to have a bigger role in the business when I joined it. Yeah.
When you got yourself in there, what did you see?
Probably the standout memory that I've got is talking to the leadership team about the fact that this would have either been March or April, we had...
This is 17.
Yeah, March, April 17, we had thousands of valuations that we couldn't attend and we couldn't meet customer demand. And I just thought, I don't think I've ever had that challenge before, to have thousands of customers that wanted us to go out and talk to them about selling their house with Purplebricks and not being able to satisfy that demand.
Is that because there wasn't enough local property experts?
Yep.
So what did you do to change that?
And so we did a recruitment campaign in Q2 17. We created the training capability to train 190 potential recruits in Q2. We mobilised the leadership team, so the regional directors, HR, sales director, who I have to say, all came together with this sense of, we can make a real difference to the business here if we can recruit and satisfy this demand. And we recruited and trained 190 local property experts.
How did that make you feel?
I was very pleased for the team. I was very proud of what had been achieved within the business. But that then gave us a new challenge that we got an extra 190 mouths to feed.
Yes.
When we got to July, August 17. There was a bit of a slowdown, there was a bit of a challenge, and we found ourselves then with a different challenge.
What, too much capacity?
Too much capacity, and not enough valuations at that point in time.
Had the valuations dropped off?
We hadn't seen the growth that we'd expected to see in that period of time, and that's I think one of the most difficult challenges that Purplebricks has faced since its launch is just projecting the growth and having in place the right resources in the right volume at the right time to tackle that. And the business has definitely got better at that. It's definitely learned from some of those early challenges, just like Countrywide will have done in reverse in 2007 when the market's half the size and you've got twice as many people as you need.
We then had Michael Bruce go on to Watchdog. How did that affect the business?
I think it was a tough time. I think Michael flew back from America to represent the brand in that environment, and I think he did the right thing.
Yes, at least he had the balls to do it.
Yeah, I think A, he had the balls, and B, he really believed in what he wanted to articulate. When he went on the show live, I think it was a very challenging, one-sided point to the argument. But Purplebricks has definitely ruffled feathers. It's definitely created a lot of challenges that didn't exist before for lots of people. And the model was under scrutiny, and quite rightly Michael came back to defend that model.
But then you went on radio a few months later.
Yep.
How did you feel about that?
So I was a couple of months into being the CEO. I understood the business particularly well. Anthony Codling had come out at the time saying at best Purplebricks complete 50% of their transactions, which simply isn't true. And I can assure you the numbers that have been shared are accurate. Purplebricks complete over 80% of the properties that they list to market. and I felt very comfortable being the voice of Purplebricks to go on to 5 Live.
Do you think that was a bit of a witch hunt when you went on Radio 5 Live?
Yeah, without doubt it was a witch
It felt like you were almost thrown under the bus.
hunt. It didn't feel like we were thrown under the bus. It felt like sensationalised consumer champions loving their own show and promoting their own messaging had the opportunity to pop at the big boys, and I think one of the bits I'm very comfortable with and proud of at Purplebricks is that at no stage did we ever say we've got this 100% right. We were learning all the time. We were looking at the customer journey in a way that I think was far more focused than any of the other brands that I've been involved in. We took customer feedback far more seriously than any of the other brands that I've been involved in, and we did those things to understand how we could make that estate agency business better.
But then you left.
Yep.
Were you kicked out?
Nope. Far from it. So I personally had a very difficult 12 months. My brother's wife died suddenly at 38 years old.
It's no age, is it?
It was a very difficult time for the family. At the time, Purplebricks, Kenny and Michael particularly, were unbelievably supportive. And then 6 months later, my wife was very poorly, and that resulted in her having a major operation. We think she's got the all clear now, but that was difficult for us. And I'd found myself, having focused on my career, relocated my family 3 times. My 2 daughters are now 7 and 5, in a position where I'd found myself saying life's short, and puts things into perspective and doing nothing about it. And I started talking to the business about finding an exit, and I have to say they were unbelievably supportive. Kelly and Michael particularly. Vic Darby, the new boss, had only been in the business a week or 2, and they were very understanding of the situation that was in, and they helped me leave the business at the end of February this year. And it was sad for me. I hope they would say it was sad for them.
Was it the right thing to do?
It's definitely been the right thing to do for my family.
Family comes first, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And look, it's me and my brother have been very close. We lived together for a long time. We then lived next door to each other when he started his family, and over the last couple of months since I left Purplebricks, I've been away with him a couple of times, and it was definitely the right thing for me to do, to put my family first for a while.
I'd like to conclude this interview now and ask you some other questions about the industry, like what you would do differently at Purplebricks, Rightmove's relationship to the industry, what you would change about the industry. Can I thank you for your honesty and frankness and candour with what you've said today, and I hope everyone that's watched it has got something from it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.